For this map, this came from my idea that maybe it would be interesting if we offer players the opportunity to be gaining the temple tiles
sooner, yeah.
But it needed a twist, right? Because just buying victory points early on is just not so tempting. So we included this. That was actually your idea.
Well, that's not important. We have this
idle
new
slot that you kind of create from 2 of those temple tiles.
I don't know if you'll see it, yeah, but you can combine any of these 2 temple tiles together and it will create a nice new idle slot that you can activate then later on. But then we also realized, okay, but if this looks neat. I feel like people like puzzles, even though they are just 2 pieces. But then we felt like, okay, this strategy, for it to work, you actually need to discover a lot of new
idols.
Sides, and we need more idols on the board.
So then we kind of modified the middle part of the board so that it offers a bit more of the idols, so you can use them. And I think that worked out pretty nicely.
And it brings something new. I think that was the original kind of like direction we were going for. We wanted to introduce maybe a little bit new feel to this new map, more strategies, something that you can explore. And even though you already played Arnak several times, that there's still something fresh and new for you to explore, even from the mechanical side of things.
Mm-hmm. And I think then later on, during the development process, we also included these secret passages, and that adds a new layer because you have now multiple strategies how you can approach it. And all of them should be balanced. So you can like go into the passage early on and then climb again and you have these better rewards there. Or you can just race to the top and try to snatch the cheaper things and the bonuses. And it really was interesting to see how players are trying during the testing to wrap their heads around it and see what's best and
how the meta strategies were changing.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that
balancing that was really hard because we changed one little thing and the players started playing completely differently because suddenly it didn't make sense to do certain things. I really needed the strategies to all balance out. So that was like a process really.
So I don't know if you got it. So you have this new piece, the lantern, and thematically you can in certain points on this research track, what you can do, you can actually go inside a tunnel and then you will just lock in your magnifying glass. That will be your stopping point. So you will leave it there and you will take instead this lantern and you will start researching from the bottom again. So this lantern piece will then replace your magnifying glass and you will keep moving the same path, maybe you took or different path, but you will be gaining much stronger bonuses. And so this is creating an interesting puzzle for you to solve because there are several ways how you can approach this. You can just race to the top as you were used to in a normal Arnak game. This is still valid strategy because there's a lot of points. There are many tiles that you can snatch along the way. But you can also park your magnifying glass soon, even into one of the first tunnels. You will lock it in for the rest of the game, and then you can start racing up with your lantern, gaining stronger bonuses, but you will be behind those that didn't do it and went with their magnifying glass further on. Or you can do the third kind of like strong strategy, and is you don't race at all. You're snatching these temple tiles that they are very cheap at the bottom. They are very tempting because when you start buying them all the way to the top, they may cost 3 times more than they started at the bottom. So there are like all these layers that you can try to evaluate. All of them, as we balance them, are valid. And it really depends on just kind of like other players, what they do, and overall situation on the board, which one will be more beneficial for you.
Mm-hmm. So that's basically like one of the reasons why we had like a code name for this temple. When it was in development, we called it the Temple of Time because it was all about timing the right and really judging how your strategy would work out.
Well, so the second map is the Spider Temple, and I feel like most people will be maybe playing this one first because it just feels so different and maybe innovative. Personally, I think there's even, well, it's hard to say, like the old temple, it has a great depth, because when we playtest it, I feel like that's where the playtesters spend the most time, because they really went deep and they realized there's so many strategies. This one really depends on the play group. It depends on how you play in a group together, because you are very much influencing of economy of all game. Because the core mechanism or what's unique about this are these dark tablets, these tablets that are just dark, and they are very tempting you with power, because what you can do with it, you can be using artifacts in a new way, in a very cheap way, very tempting way, because if you research high enough, for cost of just one of these dark tablets, you can gain any artifact from the offer, lock it into the temple and activate it. Just for price of one tablet, it's an amazing effect, it's an amazing value. But it comes with a price, because then at the end of the game, you will be losing points based on how many dark tablets you use for these dark rituals together as a group. So if you group as a whole, if you all go in, you can end up with like minus 45 points, but you will have very powerful game. You will feel like, wow, I've never achieved so much in Arnak game, but it will be for a price.
Yeah, it's fun how, like, watching people how they play this. Some are really like scared of it and never wanted to use it. Then we had groups who like run out of them in the half of games, like using as much as possible. And it was really fun, like to see some people really enjoyed like going all in, and then they didn't really mind, like, oh, losing points, I don't care, but I've been first, you know, so it was fun.
And I think this is probably the most interactive map that we have in Arnak, because not only like you are influencing the negative score.
Maybe we didn't really say how you influence it, but maybe the main part of this is, as you keep taking these tablets from this and placing them over here, right, to activate the artifacts, they don't return here. And at the end of the game, it really depends on how many you took, because the points, you know, see, like if you really go all in and remove all of them, then you have each of them is worth minus 5 points. So that's a lot. And it really depends on other players as well as your actions. So that's fun.
Yeah, well, at the same time, you are also racing for these majorities, because if you decide, okay, we are going for these, you want to be the one who activated each artifact the most, because there's like always some kind of bonus on the top. So if I actually activated mine twice and you only once, then I will be grabbing these points. So those can help me to negate some of this negatives.
Some of it, yes. So it's really about like seeing what is worth it and timing it well, but also looking up on the like offer of the artifacts here and seeing whether it can help me, but maybe not so much my...
That's a big part of it, right? Because like if you find opportunities like this artifact is perfect, but it's perfect for me in this moment, then
and the other players can't really use it as well, then that's perfect,
yeah.
and I want to snatch it as
or even for longer
possible.
term strategy, if I know, okay, I'm really strong, like I'm the only one who has 2 gold assistants,
yes,
and there's a drum that's like a refreshing assistance, like this is perfect for me and I will be using it, and the others, if they want to use it, they can, but not to the same degree of power.
So it can be interesting.
One of the reasons we even name the last big expansion, Twisted Path, is partially because of how the maps are designed, because you probably could see it on the old temple as well, that there are all these branching strategies that you can go inside the temple and then take your lantern. It's a very kind of like maze-like. Here it's very similar. All these little artifacts, I don't have many here, but like you can imagine, they're creating these little islands and they are creating branching paths. So you can take your research tokens, totally different paths, and they have different rewards depending which path you took. So even if you play this map several times, you will be still finding out new strategies as you choose different paths to take.